It's a great pleasure to welcome back to What's Next. No stranger to the show. Great to chat to you again. Thabiso Hlatshwayo, who's the Solutions Consulting Senior Manager for Africa at OpenText South Africa. We're going to talk about how do you enable that retail innovation and how efficiency works in this entire ecosystem, and how OpenText helps retailers streamline their operations and enhance the customer engagement, because we know it's all about customer engagement. And we're going to explore OpenText solutions that help retailers enhance their operational efficiency, engage customers through smart applications, data integration, and data protection. And really, how does OpenText help retailers drive innovation? So, Thabiso Hlatshwayo, welcome to you. It's great to have you back. Let me first start off by asking you, how does OpenText help retailers drive innovation while keeping operations streamlined?
It's a pleasure to see you, Aki, and great to be talking to your listeners once again. Yeah, look, Aki, it's always a tough set of balls to juggle, but it's one that's become quite critical over the past couple of years, of course. And firstly, I want to highlight the fact that OpenText works very closely with SAP in some of the things I'll share today. So it's not just a view of my own from OpenText; it's through the partnership we share and enjoy together with SAP. And yes, I think automation in real-time data has become critical. We know that it really helps organizations with improving their time to market, and there's many benefits that can be derived from this. And one of the things that I typically have looked at that we do today for some of the retailers as the two OEMs is, for example, we automate the invoice processes. So essentially from receiving or receipting to posting invoices, and we use pre-configured rule-based type engagements in order to automate this with no human touch, as an example, throughout this process. Now, of course, this sticking to the same examples, this allows for better collaboration to take place between the different stakeholders who are involved in the procure-to-pay cycle. But maybe looking at some of the most fundamental things today, it reduces fraud. We reduce fraud that can take place inside of organizations when they're exchanging these types of heavy invoices, in the background. We also reduce errors. And for me, I think the topic of errors is critical, because an error today is not just an error. It could cost you business and the time for you to get where you need to get at the end of the day, just because there was an error at some point of the process of your procurement cycle. And in closing, Aki, maybe just talking about typical benefits of introducing automation in this area. You obviously can also reduce penalties that can occur between yourself as a retailer and your suppliers, right? It also means that if you get it right very early in the early onset, you can also promote you can also identify areas where you can bring up promotions that can go into the market much quicker. So these are some of the things that essentially you can get right by introducing automation and bringing about visibility in your supply chain in this case.
What role does automation play in this entire process? Because at the recent OpenText Africa Summit, it was really fascinating to listen to what a big focus automation was. And it really plays a critical role in enabling retailers to stay competitive in today's very, very fast-moving market.
No, it's true, Aki. Speaking about the OpenText Africa Summit that took place a couple of weeks ago, well, one of the things that one of the customers we had there speaking on stage was Pick n Pay, which is a public reference for us. Pick n Pay have achieved tremendous automation in one area of the business, right? They used to use well over 25 employees whose role was to do testing. So user acceptance testing, and all sorts of testing there around coding and so forth to ensure that the code is right, there's no security issues and so forth. And leveraging AI and automation, they've been able to reduce that complement quite significantly to a point where, they'll even argue that for them, every single development scenario that's taking place in their apps they typically would like to invoke an element of automation and AI to help them with achieving the best and faster routes to market. Now, this is a classic example. It's something that's happening almost in a back-end operation, but you can see it affect the front-end side, how quickly you can go to market by introducing automation at that level. That means because think about it, when an organization and when retailers spot opportunities, it's about them being able to get that platform or that service out the door as quickly as possible. And we know that if you're going to go through the traditional route of having to scope things, reserve a time of a specialist implementation team to deploy that functionality that you're looking for, it could be 2 or 3 months later, too late into you starting the game and being out there talking to your customers in a way that you should. So automation is bringing that cycle of product ideation to product reality much closer together, essentially, while protecting and looking after all the relevant components of safety, developing in a secure platform, not introducing yourself to, a buggy application. This is where we see automation coming out here from a testing perspective, as an example, to give you that comfort that as I'm releasing this technology, it will meet the quality that I expect for my consumers and my customers on the other side of the line.
So how can retailers use real-time data to improve decision-making across operations and customer engagement?
Yeah, look, Aki, it's about, I think the key word we're looking for here would be personalization. Now, we've seen in the past that loyalty typically comes across if customers feel like you understand them and that you are bringing out specific purpose-built solutions that will solve their everyday issues. And I don't want to go into some things that have happened recently in the retail space that have shook the industry quite heavily. But the idea there is, I'm going to phrase it into I'm going to put into three different categories. The first category is outwards facing. The idea is, if you are a retailer, you need to be, I almost want to say, almost stalking your customers to some degree, right? Where you understand what they are doing, where they are in the buying cycle. And once you've understood that and what's happening in their personal areas and their thinking patterns, then you're able, just when they are about to make the decision to purchase, then you want to be there to be top of mind when that idea comes up. So it's a fine line, and that's an outwards facing type of conversation from a personalization perspective. But what I've also seen is retailers also, they don't make big margins. No, it's something that we know. Selling apples and grapes, the margins are extremely low. So there's a massive focus around introducing personalization, but with an inwards focus. So the idea is, if you're going to be outputting or speaking to consumers across multiple channels, social media platforms, on mobile devices and so forth, it could mean that you could become bloated in terms of developers who are actually working to track and see how customers are doing, and you then needing to respond to that. So as a result, there's an inward focus to say, if I've got a team of developers, I would like them to develop just once. And I would like that developed application to output across all the channels that I need without having to compromise the quality, without having to compromise my branding and so forth. And this is where you start to see an element of personalization come together with efficiency, leveraging some platforms in the background. And we do this quite strongly with SAP today, with many customers that I could share who are using some of these technologies in the background to reduce cost while ensuring that their brand is remaining quite top of mind inside of their customers. Omnichannel is critical, as I highlighted earlier on. So the ability to integrate into these omnichannel platforms that you're using to engage with customers is critical. And at the end of the day, you're relying on platforms in the background to do all of that. And in closing, I think I want to highlight the topic of being able to receive feedback. And once you receive that feedback, it must almost happen in real time, that you're able to apply it back into improving the channel of communication with your customers and the engagement that you're having with your customers. One such area is performance testing. If we consider the fact that from a performance test perspective, we know that if you launch an application or you launch a product and it does not perform at the right optimal level, you would have lost your consumers completely. To get them to come and revisit that platform again is very critical. But at the same time, you don't want to overspec an infrastructure or overspec your platform so that it starts to bleed the cutting edge area that you're looking into. So you want to introduce nice platforms in there to help you test just about the right efficiency for the people who are, or the number of consumers who are going to be engaging with you at a particular time. And these are things that we introduce all together as levels or pillars for consideration when you think about personalization and bringing about a specialized interaction between yourself and your customers, and ultimately your internal stakeholders as well.
In what way does OpenText's low-code platform accelerate innovation while maintaining that agility, which is critical?
Look, it's a brilliant question, Aki, and it's a loaded one. I can tell you that, right? Because I think to answer this question, one will have to accept or acknowledge that the retail space has been evolving. Over the past couple of years, we are seeing traditional retail organization moving or wedging more towards being telcos on the one hand. They are converting and providing some sort of banking-like microservices as an example. We're also seeing some retailers even converging towards becoming post office service provider as an example. So these are things that the different retailers are moving more towards, and it's the same because the same other industries are starting to become retailers. And so there's a shift. Now, in this shift, it means you want to be able to go to market much quicker, right? The idea of being able to leverage a low-code, no-code platform suddenly becomes quite favorable, where you can start to introduce things like citizen developers, where you mix a brand or a breed of both technical individuals with business individuals to sit in a room and be able to drag and drop without having to code anything. And here's an app that is at least got a feel of the technical elements in the background with the technical people, but it's also got a strong feel of what the business people who are customer facing are saying, and their understanding or research is telling them in terms of what this app needs to adhere to. Now, if you combine the two, you find that you'll be able to go to market much quicker if you're doing that on a low code, no code type platform. Now, at the end of this as well, we're going to go back to the fact that margins are exceptionally low in the retail space. So the idea that you got to do this in a cost effective way becomes, again, a conversation here to be had, right? Because what we are doing today is through the low-code, no-code platform, you are able to reuse the very same set of people or resources in your organization who are specialists in HR, specialists in communications. You can get them in the room and have them leverage their skills to build these apps, essentially to allow you to go out to market without having to go and get a specialized a systems integrator or specialized developer to come and make these apps work. This is where we are seeing the market going and where the retailers are adding value, leveraging these low-code, no-code applications today, essentially.
How does OpenText enable seamless collaboration between IT teams on the one side, business decision makers on the other side in this competitive retail sector?
Look, we are getting it right in many instances, Aki. So together, SAP and OpenText, we've got platforms that allow for this interoperability to happen, right? So in other words, for the technical individuals to come into the room, and I mean technical does not necessarily need to be developers. If you think about it, it could be technical in a sense of legal people. They are technical in their disciplines in nature. So for me to be able to send out a clear communication, a market-based communication, there's certain clauses that are needed in that communication that must come from legal. So if we've templatized it from a legal team perspective, and we allow them to give us what's approved statements as part of designing this communication to this customer, on the other hand, we then get these business people who are saying, guys, really, I want to be able to design the app. It must work in this way. It must function in this way. This communication must look in this way in order for it to be effective for my constituents and my citizens and my customers. So these platforms allow us to templatize these types of disciplines so that the organization holistically gets to approve what is acceptable. The design team, the technical teams, they design this. These templates then get approved. And at the end of the day, you pass it down to the end individual. It could be a customer services rep who's every day talking to these customers, and you'd want them to then essentially be able to pull, drag and drop, leveraging these templates to be able to structure a communication that will be compelling for Thabiso to be convinced to move forward with myself as a particular retailer. So that's how the platforms are structured to work. It's templatized based. You get input from all different aspects and ratios of the organization. And then at the end of the day, you transpose that into a platform where a service representative can then design a compelling final step to communicate with the relevant channel in the chain. And the idea is these platforms, they need to cater for every single channel that you want to engage on. Nowadays, I prefer to receive communication via my watch. I'm a digital native. My mother, on the other hand, she still prefers to receive a particular letter that tells her about something that has changed in her account, in an engagement that she's having with the retailer. And as a result, you want to be able to design just once and leverage this multi-channel capability without the service analyst having to worry about, when I click publish now, do I need to click publish 10 times because I've got 10 different channels? No, they must just click once, and the understanding in the background of the preferences of this particular customer must be applied. And when the communication goes out, it must go out in a preferred method to the person that's intended to receive the communication. These are platforms that we've got in place today that we provide to customers today, essentially.
Thabiso, what benefits do retailers see from using a cloud deployment model in their tech stack?
Aki, it's a conversation we're having every day. We know that at some point, organizations were very reluctant to move to cloud. But we also know that these powerful apps, if you consider a ChatGPT application as an example in the background, the power that's required to run the type of an app is something that you would not want to take on as an individual organization and procure that infrastructure. That's the reality on the ground. So this is where cloud comes to play. The ability for you to scale up when needed through cloud partnerships that you're having in whatever form that you prefer as a retailer is what we're seeing is quite favorable. This is why we've advanced heavily all of our applications to be able to work in a cloud native format, supporting Kubernetes, Dockers, etc., in order for things to work just that much better and more closer to what cloud is geared towards. We're seeing a massive rise. SAP have got a program called Rise where they're moving all of their customers to cloud. And that's how much of a bet that they're making with regards to a cloud first type approach for their own investment. And the idea here, Aki, is to allow some element of flexibility to someone who wants to operate in this new world of automation, in this new world of AI, without having to really dig too deep and invest too heavily in infrastructure to make it happen. So cloud becomes the next option, the first best option, to be honest, that I've seen from customers who are wanting to be cutting edge. They have in one form or another a cloud strategy that they are going forward with. And I can confirm that our strategy is quite firmly rooted around cloud as well, because we see the same. You want to make use of our technology, it will be able to function off cloud, but our preference and our leading research and development capabilities are sitting right there, leading with the cloud first approach. And we're seeing that the response from the market is quite positive in this way, Aki. The only thing that customers are asking for is, can you make it flexible for me to choose when I want to go to cloud? Can I do a hybrid approach with cloud? And can I grow with cloud as opposed to a big bang approach with cloud?
How does the OpenText platform help retailers personalize customer interactions while maintaining that operational efficiency?
So the earlier on, I spoke a little bit about having to understand every step of your customer's life. So the concept is you need to be able to be where the customers are living today. And a typical example of this is many areas, but a typical example of this is social media. So one of the things we're able to do is we've got partnerships with the largest social media platforms, social media like Twitter, Facebook, and so forth, where people typically do some of their shopping or they are researching some of the things that they prefer now. And through those interactions, well, of course, they also speak about your brand there as well, right? They share their experience with a particular retailer, how they were treated, and if they did like it or did not like it, they're able to share that experience. And so the idea is having a presence and being able to leverage the data that comes from those platforms is critical. And to be able to use the data in such a way that it's a funnel that allows you to make decisions to say, hey, everyone is not happy with my delivery app that I've been using for the past 3 months, and they're citing that it's taking too long, or the drivers don't enter the gate when they come to my estate. And as a result, I need to start tweaking that part of the functionality of my application to ensure that as a retailer who's delivering door to door, I'm now able to cater for what they're asking for. So the idea is to harness that information, that data, and be able to apply it in the dev world, this low code, no code application that we're developing here. And so that the next release that is going to be going out now caters and addresses those issues. The idea is to be able to, when you're listening to those social media conversations, to be able to understand when a customer is so unhappy that you want to deploy a representative to respond directly on behalf of your brand around taking the matter seriously. Customers are connected nowadays. Customers do research nowadays. Reviews are critical. Honest reviews are critical. And this is what customers typically look to before they commit into partnering with someone in this retail space. So these are the things that we do. We allow you to funnel that information to your organization, not just funnel it because it's going to be a hose pipe of information. The idea is to segment it in such a way that it allows you to make real live auditable changes to your application, and in those release cycles you can start to make those changes as your app is growing and developing. These are things that we're doing today to help customers become stronger with their own customers at the end of the day.
Can you share with us how retailers are leveraging OpenText's solution to future-proof their businesses today?
Well, it's a great question, and I want you to picture an example of Thabiso. Typically, I don't have to mention a particular retailer. Let's maybe go with the bank, and I go online and say, listen, my grandmother who's 75 years old, she's been declined to get a policy with a particular bank, my banker, and I'm not happy with this. Essentially, I wish there was a product that they would be able to bring for her to be able to partake in this, protecting herself. Maybe it's a policy she's looking for, etc. And just by me placing a comment like this, very, very high level worded communication on social media, and let's assume I've got a massive following, and suddenly, if that starts to rake up a lot of similar like-minded thoughts or comments of people saying, I had a similar experience. My 80-year-old grandmother, who historically never had the power to partake in a medical aid or in a policy purchasing, now that she's out of the age group that works, I wish there was a product that I could get out there. If one of the OpenText customers has got that type of a need, typically with the service from OpenText, then we'll be able to go and let them know that, by the way, a post was made 3-4 days ago. There's a need, there's a missing product. Now, it's either you've got the product or you don't have it today, so you can go and develop it, essentially, where you can go and start looking at young individuals, young professionals who have got grandparents who would like to partake in having these types of policies. How about you create a paired type of policy where you don't just give the policy to the individual that's the elderly, but you also pair it up with the young individual to back them up, and suddenly you can take that to market. These are real live examples of how suddenly you can have a new segment of business that could be born that you can start to scoop away, right? Because Thabiso is young. This is a far-fetched discussion, but it's a realistic one that I'm bringing to fold today. We've been piloting and working together with some of the organizations that are in the retail space in the OpenText ecosystem. It's a real-life example, and the idea is, while this is influenced by a social media-based campaign, there's many others that could happen. It could be one that's informed by clicks, where you launch a campaign, and the idea is you want to be able to track how many people have clicked, have opened, what are the interactions, who have they forwarded this campaign to, what's the age group of this campaign, etc. Now, to your question earlier, this is leveraging and consuming large data and interactions. And if you are able to harness this information to make the right decisions and then start to recommend, and I'm telling you, Aki, we've got a recommend engine that starts to tell these retailers what they should be doing, looking at the spectrum of the information that has come back to say your target market should be anyone between the ages of 30 and 45. They should be in this particular profession. They should be at this level of proficiency. They should have a degree in these types of areas. And if you target these people, you've got an 80% likelihood of being able to break into that market segment and capture that market segment for yourself. These are the types of realistic things that we are doing with understanding of data and bringing forward some innovative ideas to the retail sector.
Really fascinating insights. Thabiso Hlatshwayo, thank you so much for your time. Thabiso is the Solution Consulting Senior Manager for Africa at OpenText South Africa. Thank you so much for your time and joining us for this episode of What's Next.